Okay, I'll call this regular meeting of council to order, and I will now ask if everybody can please rise for the national anthem. Okay, I'll now ask if there are any disclosures of pecuniary interest and the general nature thereof. Okay, seeing none, we do have one delegation tonight. So we have Mr. Graham Ross here, who is a Wainfleet resident, who is here to present to us regarding marijuana facility in Wainfleet. So, Graham, if you want to come up to the podium, I know you've been up there before, so as long as that red light is on the button, you should be good to go. We'll just get some, because the live stream can't hear you unless we've got that. No. So we'll just wait and see if he can, sorry about that, if he can turn that up. We can get Ted to sing. He's quite willing to do that.
I'll just come closer. It's okay.
Okay, well, whenever you're ready, we've made a technical
Go ahead.
alternative.
Well, this is the low-tech alternative, right? Mayor Jeff's council members, I'm here on behalf of the residents of East Wilford Road as a follow-up to our presentation at the last council meeting. In just 9 short days from our appeal for help at the last council meeting, the proposed medical marijuana grow-op located on Wilford Road near Gents Road at the former Railway Gardens greenhouses has had a warrant served on Thursday, August the 31st. Niagara Regional Police located and seized some 668 marijuana plants with an estimated street value of $668,000. There were no Health Canada licenses in place. We're here tonight to reiterate our need for help. Just because there's been a successful warrant served and arrests made, we still need swift action. on the part of council to get the setback bylaw enforced for this particular property and some new municipal licensing or bylaw policies put in place. It is imperative that council create a municipal licensing policy. If we had a licensing policy already in place, the issue we now face with this facility, reestablishing its production, would not exist. As part of the new municipal licensing should include zero tolerance for offenses and non-compliance. This seizure and arrests are a definite step in the right direction regarding this facility, keeping in mind that an arrest does not mean a conviction. We cannot view this warrant as an end to the issues with this facility, for it will have slowed them down, but we feel, and if history serves true, as they have seen at many other facilities throughout our region and others, that this is not the end, and they will continue their applications for new licenses using different applicants' names, and will set up their operations once again. They will not want to part with the investment that they have made in the property and setup so easily, nor with the potential to make hundreds of thousands of dollars so quickly. In just 24 days of being in this facility, the operators have managed to be completely established, set up, and running with 668 plants, all at various stages of growth. Imagine what kind of production and income could come from that large facility after a year of operation. Keeping in mind that they are allowed up to 4 licenses per property, with each license allowing up to, on average, as many as 300 plants. Each license, depending on a patient's prescription dose, can be many times these amounts. Not to mention, if the operators of this facility have no qualms about starting up the production of the 668 plants without proper licensing in place, how much overgrowth and other illegal practices will happen once a proper license is in place? Once a license is issued, it will be even harder for council and authorities to have access to the facility to assess what is happening inside. Not to mention, once again, putting our neighborhood at risk. Our fight to keep this facility and others like it out of our township is far from over. And once again, the time for action is now. And I put it to council, if this occurred across the street from where your home is, I suspect you'd be taking the same kind of passionate interest in this as we do. You are elected by us to represent us. That tells me that every street and road in the Township of Wainfleet is your street and road. Bear that in mind. Thank you.
Okay, thank you for the presentation. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Ross? Oh my God, no? Okay. Okay, I guess there are no questions. Does anybody have any questions for staff? Is that okay?
Dykstra.
Through you, Madam Mayor. Thanks for the presentation, Graham. But Sarah, as a follow-up from our meeting, there was some discussion with some bylaw information coming from another community. Did you make any inroads with that?
Through you, Mayor Jeff to Alderman Dykstra. So the City of Mississauga has a licensing bylaw for these facilities, and that was provided by the residents, and the Niagara Regional Police are actually kind of saying that that's one of the best bylaws they've seen in terms of regulating these facilities. So I've been reviewing that with our bylaw enforcement officer, and then we've also reached out to the township lawyer to have a look. Because we don't do business licensing here in Wainfleet, we had a few questions about how we would implement that for this specific use or facility. So we're looking into that before we bring a staff report back to council. We want to make sure we cover all of our bases before we propose an option for council to consider.
So if I may continue, not to put you on the spot, so we will be seeing a staff report regarding the issue. And again, not to put you on the spot, but do you have any sort of time frame? I'm not holding you to your feet to the fire on anything. I'm just wondering, I know you have to talk to many different agencies.
Through Mayor Jeff to Alderman Dykstra, right now my plan is for the next meeting, which is October 3rd.
Thank you.
Okay, any other questions for staff? Sarah, if I can just ask you, Mr. Ross mentioned setback bylaw, and I know that was discussed the last time there was a presentation, and you and I had talked to residents on that road, and we talked at great length about that. So is there going to be something coming forward in relation to that, or maybe you can elaborate on that a little bit?
Through you, Mayor Jeff, so our zoning bylaw has a 150-meter setback requirement currently in place, and it also requires a site-specific zoning bylaw amendment to permit the use. What we've had discussion, we haven't really been challenged on that or had anyone apply for such a facility. So again, part of our process in looking at not only the licensing bylaw, but looking at how we go about enforcing the current bylaws, current zoning bylaw. So again, we've reached out to the township lawyer to get some input on the process before we go ahead and start implementing or enforcing that.
Okay, so no other question. Alderman Hassels.
Yeah, so just to be a little bit proactive, could we not send a letter to these owners about that bylaw so they're well aware of it? That would just be kind of being proactive, I think.
Through you, Mayor Jeff to Alderman Hessels, yes, that's one of the things that we're looking at in terms of getting information out there. But it's something that we're discussing with our lawyer right now in terms of a process. If it leads that we end up pressing charges for our zoning bylaw infraction, we want to make sure we follow the right process so that there's no hiccups at that stage that would potentially derail a successful charge.
Okay, so any further questions? Okay, seeing none, then I'll need a motion to receive the presentation for information. Moved by Alderman Dykstra, seconded by Alderman Hessels. All those in favor, and that's carried. So now we'll go on quickly to my mayor's remarks. So I attended the annual Marshville Heritage Festival over Labor Day weekend. I was there helping out on the Saturday, and I saw that, once again, they had fantastic attendance, and I think that carried on through the whole weekend, and I think they managed to avoid any of the inclement weather. And I think I mentioned this at the last council meeting, but next year will mark their 30th year, so that's a pretty big milestone, so we'll look forward to that. And then last week, Lee and I, we are still continuing to do our site visits to local businesses. So Lee and I were out last week. We visited 905 Rentals, and on our way, we got to see a big water spout over Lake Erie. So that was quite exciting for us. And then, so we had a great visit with them, and we continue to do that. And actually today, Alderman Gilmore went on my behalf to meet with DJ's Restaurant. So we continue to, I think we've got another 4 or 5 businesses lined up over the next couple months. So we're continuing to get feedback and talk to business owners. Regional Council will have the first meeting since we've gotten back from the summer this coming Thursday evening. And then on Saturday, this Saturday, September 16th, I will again be taking part in the 44th Annual Invitational Grape Stomp Challenge to stomp out poverty. So the one year I won based on population and the amount of food I had. Last year I didn't do as well. I definitely do not come close to winning when it comes to actually stomping the grapes. That's way more intense physical exercise than you would think it is. Although I have been working out more, so maybe I'll do better this year. But we do have bins for food donations that are available here in the office in the lobby, and also at the credit union, and they're there until this coming Thursday. So our goal, as Amber has written here for me, is to collect 300 pounds of non-perishable food, and all donations will go to support the Wainfleet Firefighters Christmas Basket Program. So if anybody watching tonight or anybody here has some time to drop off some very heavy non-perishable items, that would be great, because it all goes by weight. I will also be attending the AGM for the Welland Heritage Council and Multicultural Center on September 19th, next week. The next MPCA board meeting is in the morning on September 20th. And then, of course, we can't forget that we have our annual Wainfleet Fall Fair happening September 21st to 23rd. And I will make the request that I do every year. We do have the parade that evening, so I've thrown that out to Amber. I know everybody's busy, but I know some years we've done some really fun stuff, and other years we've just kind of been present, but hopefully we can get council and staff together and we can attend the parade, not to put anybody on the spot, but I just did. So anyway, that's it for my mayor's remarks, and now we'll go into the minutes.
That the minutes of the regular meeting of council held on August 22nd, 2017 be adopted as circulated.
Okay, I need a mover and a seconder for the minutes. Moved by Alderman Dykstra and seconded by Alderman Gilmore. Are there any errors or omissions on the minutes? Okay, seeing none, I'll call the question. All those in favor, and that's carried. And then we'll go into our first planning report.
That administrative staff report ASR 23-2017 regarding planning technician and the recommendations contained therein be adopted as circulated.
Okay, a mover and a seconder for this report. Moved by Alderman Conk, seconded by Alderman Gilmore. Were there any questions related to this report? Alderman Conk.
Through you, Madam Mayor, this question is for Adam. Can you give us an idea of, I know we put money in the budget for another staff member, and this person, this technician, is going to take that position. So is there going to be a difference in pay from the two positions?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Alderman Kong. Yes, going forward in 2018 and beyond, there will be, this position will be graded higher than the administrative position. But for 2017, given that there will likely only be 3 months to the year left, what was budgeted for the previous position will more than cover that for the current year. But going forward, there will be a slight increase. We're still working through, going through the job scoring process that was done with all other positions back in 2016 as part of the job evaluation process to get the final range of the position, but there will be an increase.
Thank you.
I see your hand up, Alderman Hessels. Okay.
Yeah, like I've talked to you before, Sarah, and there seems to be some overlap on what the NPCA does and what you do. So I'm wondering, is there some way we could eliminate some of the workload, or, because hiring another person, like that, we're a small municipality, and another, I don't know what the job would be, 60 or 70,000 a year, so I'm just wondering if there's other ways we could make your workload easier, because I think it was with the wetlands and the woodlots, you do your thing, the MPCA does their thing, so.
I think the question is more about the planning department as a whole, not necessarily directed specifically to Sarah, but I know you can answer, I know what Alderman Hessels is referring to regarding the overlays and everything, so I'll let you continue.
So through you, Mayor Jeff to Alderman Hessels. So you're right. So in our zoning bylaw, we have environmental protection and environmental conservation overlays that generally align with the MPCA regulated areas, and then the Niagara Region Natural Environment Policy mapping. But when it comes to, but the MPCA also, when looking at a building permit application or any type of planning application, there are things that I wouldn't do at the township level that they are responsible for. But in your case, I believe where you're getting at is in the protection and conservation overlays and the studies that are required. We currently don't have the environmental expertise in-house, so we outsource some of our scoping for environmental studies to the Conservation Authority because they are the environmental experts. So I don't know if that addresses your question. So the MPCA has regulated areas that generally align within our environmental protection and conservation areas in our official plan and zoning bylaw. But when it comes to wetlands specifically, they have the authority to do development review for that.
Yeah, I guess I can't quite remember. There were two instances I was with you with the resident, and you kind of said, yeah, it's an overlap. And you, at that time, you says, well, council directed you to do it. So I don't know. Here's another job. I'm just seeing if we can lighten your workload without having some of these rules or regulations that we don't need another planning tech. Because this is basically helping you along, right? The planning tech, that's to take the workload off of you.
Well, I'm going to look to Adam to,
Sure. Through you, Madam Mayor, to Alderman Hessel. So that's part of it. But Sarah and I have been working on this kind of over the last better part of half a year in terms of just tracking the volume of requests. And also the thing to remember is due to our geographical area and all the site-specific requirements that we have to do, it's when you meet with someone or someone inquires about something, you have to do a lot of research, but then you have a meeting with them, and then depending on what they choose to do, there's further meetings. And so just looking at the volume, I can give you stats for 2017. So Sarah has just shy of almost 300 meetings that she's had with local residents in terms of inquiries about things from building decks to garages to homes. So it's certainly a volume aspect to it, but I think when we tie it back to the strategic plan and some of the action items that are in there in terms of speeding up the process with respect to these applications, educating our population on the intricacies of building and planning in the township, having a second resource to provide that external service level would go a long way in this small community.
okay, any further questions then? Okay, seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor? Opposed, if any? Okay, and that's carried. All right, so now we will move on to the municipal grant donation policy.
That administrative staff report, ASR 24, 2017, regarding municipal grant donation policy and the recommendations contained therein be adopted as circulated.
So I need a mover and a seconder for this one. I knew Alderman Conk would move it. And a seconder, Alderman Gilmore. Any questions or comments on this one? Alderman Hessels?
Yeah, through you. The fire department has, I don't know if it's a grant, but it's in their agreement. So, well, it won't make a difference to that portion of it?
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Alderman Hessel. So in terms of budgeting purposes going forward, we will include an estimated amount for that, but given that that's a negotiated item into their association agreement, we're not going to prevent them from receiving that, but I think it'll just give us better accountability and understanding of the true costs of the township by incorporating it as part of it. So it's in the agreement, they're entitled to it, that's not going to change, but now it'll give council a better understanding of the true cost of every time a fee is waived, what we're kind of giving up in terms of that.
Okay, any other questions? Okay, seeing none, I will call the question. All those in favor, and that is carried.
That Public Works Staff Report, PWSR 15, 2017, regarding Canada 150 update and the recommendations contained therein be adopted as circulated.
Okay, a mover and a seconder. Moved by Alderman Dykstra, seconded by Alderman Gilmore. I want to see if anybody has any questions, but I think staff is looking for direction on this one as well. So, oh, there's a presentation. Why don't we start with that? I forgot. I wrote it right here, video. Sorry. Whenever you're ready, Richard.
Thank you. Okay, I'll speak loud enough. I want to thank, there's members of the committee with us tonight. Is that better? Oh, my goodness. Okay, we won't get too close. I want to thank, we do have some members of the committee with us here tonight, and again, I want to put out a big thank you to them, the hard work that was involved in this. Yes, I do have a slight presentation, and I think it's just, basically it's some pictures that we've taken through the event that, in case some that weren't able to make the event might be able to see what took place and some of the overview, but it's a good description of basically some of the things that took place. This was the preparation of the flag on the field, and it took us like 2 days to paint that thing. That was a picture from a drone. This was a picture that Mayor Jeffs managed to be able to take for us. That was a wonderful turnout we had. And that was actually only part of it, because there was quite a few people standing outside during that picture. That was a new feeder plaque that's been installed. That was a lineup for food. They were cooking their hearts out all the time. That was some of the crafts and the kids' programs that we had going on that day. And of course the kite flyers that were out in the soccer fields. And of course the entertainment. This here was a movie we were presenting for the kids in the community hall. And that was the outdoor vending and, of course, the fireworks. So one thing I do want to mention, like again, this is some of the thank you to some of our members and committee members. But one of the things that showed up that really came to light during our wrap-up session and closing session, when we actually discussed the entire event and how we can improve, not improve going forward, where we're looking to go. The members actually were congratulatory on everybody else as well, because some of them actually said it's the first time they've always managed to get everybody together, working together, and it was a seamless team that worked together. So I got to congratulate all the team members. It wasn't just staff that put it together. It was a team effort.
Okay, thanks for that. That was a good kind of memory of that day. And again, I don't think we can thank everybody enough for doing such a great job that day, but I will say again, I know we've got a couple people in the gallery, and we couldn't have done it, like you said, Richard, with all the different groups working together. And it was, when I walked from the Moore Room and we were piped in, right? Yeah, we were piped into the arena, and I got up and I looked at how full it was. I couldn't believe it. So yeah, job well done to everybody. So on that note, the report kind of reviews everything and some options moving forward. So I don't know if anybody has any questions or anything they would like to discuss at this point. Are we thinking this is okay? Alderman Conk.
Through you, Madam Mayor. So in your kind of wrap-up and discussion with the staff and the volunteers, I'm just making a large assumption that the wish would be to carry this forward, but I'm also assuming also assuming that it will be a little bit smaller in scale? Yes, no?
Through your worship to Alderman Conk, the committee did discuss future possibilities. And one of the things they did say was, yeah, there was sections that we were talking about scaling back, changing a few things, and maybe potentially some of the timing. But the best part for me was to see that everybody that was on the committee actually said that they would participate in the future in helping to organize another one. So if, again, but it's the reason why I'm coming forth now is because we will have to include that as part of the budget deliberations. And then we can actually start planning earlier, because we were kind of
Right,
rushed
you were in
based
a
on the
rush.
budget last year.
So are we looking at the same budget, a smaller budget, a bigger budget, or what do you think?
That will be up to council's discretion.
Well, was what you were given, was that,
Part of the report actually has the financials in it, and we actually came just under budget.
okay,
$15,267.14.
okay. Thank you.
Okay, Alderman Hessels.
Yeah, I got to say, it was a great event, but I'm kind of wondering if you do it every year, if that excitement will be there. I've seen it with other events, if you do them all the time, but this was a special one, so. And I see your, I forget what it said here on the recommendation, you're thinking about it proceeding. So that's where I'm kind of hesitant. It's put a lot of time and effort, and then you find out next year the event doesn't go so big, or if you did it every 5 years, it's just a reason to be a bigger event. So that's kind of my thoughts to it. I'm a little bit skeptical about doing it every year.
Richard, how soon do you think we'd have to decide to give everybody ample time to do what they need to do?
Well, last year we were really scrambling for time. The sooner the better, but obviously it's going to be dependent on the budget. So if it's going to be included in budget, we can start doing some preliminary discussions. But obviously it's going to have to wait till the approval of budget to actually commit to any finances.
So one of the options here is to discuss having it, well, that's what we're doing right now, and then to put it in the budget, and then we can decide then. So what Meredith's looking for is that we'll vote on receiving this report, and then she needs a separate motion giving direction if we're not going to proceed, or if we want to put it in the budget and then make a decision. Alderman Hessels.
I'm wondering if there's any way we could let the general public in to see if they think it's a good idea or not. I know we have a hard time getting through media-wise, it sounds like the volunteers want to do it, but I don't know. I seen how volunteer works sometimes, and it's pretty tough to get them out there. And like I say, it was a special occasion this time, so.
Yeah, I don't know if there'd be something that we could put on the Facebook page. Like, are you thinking maybe give it another 3 weeks and see what?
Yeah, I don't know if there is something like that you could, and then they could say yes or no, like, is it a good idea or not a good idea?
Yeah, I'm not sure what that would look like. I'm just thinking social media is an easy way to go, but I don't know if anybody else has any other suggestions or input, or if we want to take another cycle and think about it, or. So I'm looking to council for comments. Alderman Gilmore.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Well, I don't see any harm in cycling it through Facebook before the 3-week period between now and the next meeting, and see if we have a lot of positive, negative. You'll probably only get a handful of people, but you'll get the gist of it, and then we can go from there.
So we can vote on the report, and then Alderman Gilmore, would you make a motion to that effect? Okay, so let's vote on receiving the report. So I will call the question on receiving the report. All those in favor? and that's carried. And then Alderman Gilmore, your motion is for the next 3 weeks, to have something up on Facebook then?
Sure, that'll work.
Okay. So I need a seconder for that, Alderman Dykstra. So all those in favor, that is carried. I can see Amber's wheels are already turning as to how she's going to make this happen, but I know that she will. Okay, so now we'll go on to correspondence, and we don't need a motion to get this out on the floor or anything. We're just going to go through it. So the first one, 190, so this is a follow-up request. We'd had kind of an initial request, and then now they've actually sent the resolution. So Alderman Conk, so this is for their specific issue that they have in their municipality? Okay.
Through
And
you,
so-
Madam.
Yeah,
through
go
you,
ahead.
Madam Mayor, the judicial review that this particular municipality is going through has already been in front of a judge, and he suggested that they get other municipal support to strengthen their judicial review. So they've reached out across the province to, especially in particular to municipalities that they know have waged a war against turbines, if you will, and they in particular reached out to me, and I passed it on to Meredith. So it's not costing us anything. It's just a resolution to say that we agree with all of their points that they're putting in the judicial review. They're the ones that are footing the bill for the judicial review, which is quite expensive. And that's about it. I mean, it's pretty simple. We either do agree or we don't agree.
Okay, so we need to, so this is refer to council, so we need to amend it to either support or receive, or, so Alderman Conk, I guess I'm looking to you to make a motion then to support it. So do we have a seconder for that? Seconded by Alderman Gilmore. So I will call the question. All those in favor? That is carried. And now we're on to 192, and related to the wildlife damage compensation program. So I don't know what we want to do with this one. Looking to the members of our agricultural community, maybe? Okay.
Yeah, I would say we should support it.
Okay, so you're moving that, and seconded by Alderman Dykstra. All those in favor, that's carried. And then 193, I don't see an issue with supporting that. So Alderman Dykstra, you're moving to support that. The seconder, Alderman Gilmore, all those in favor, that's carried. And then finally, the 197 regarding the airport privatization. So I don't know what I'm trying to find it here. So I'm looking, Alderman Hassels.
Yeah, I'm not sure. I don't know if we just received that one for information.
Okay. Okay, so you're moving to receive it, and seconded by Alderman Gilmore. All those in favor, that's carried. Any other correspondence anybody wants to touch on? Alderman Hessels.
Yeah, 189, and it has to do about that manure application or whatever. And like I've talked to you, like I know our sign, our logo says "Find Your Countryside," and I don't mind that, but I'm wondering if we should add a little clause on there that you're in a farming community, and there are things associated with it. That's so I don't know if it's something we could look at, or if maybe if staff wants to come back, or if council thinks it's a good recommendation or not. But because that's kind of seems to be the big thing. Like people come here and then all of a sudden they don't like the smell of farming or the noise or the dust or whatever. So we're asking people to find your countryside here, and I just like them to be aware.
So you're thinking, yeah, we did talk about this yesterday, so you want to change the slogan then to...
Well, I don't think we have to change the slogan, but maybe an addition to it.
Okay, well, because I know we talked about that, I still don't necessarily, I don't know if council wants to comment on that. I still don't necessarily see what, because the slogan's supposed to be catchy and stuff, so maybe we just need to change it to something altogether, but I don't know, like you and I had talked about.
I guess I'd be looking to the rest of council to see what they think of the idea.
So I'm looking to the rest of council as well. Alderman Dykstra.
Would it be say something like, we stink here or something? Like,
No, I'd say, be aware of the 7 common nuisances related to farming, so.
That's what 91.7 said that day, yeah.
What did they?
Well, because you and I had talked, Ted, about the, like, changing the catchphrase, the slogan would, because then you have to change all the business cards and literature
I
and stuff.
realize
So, yeah, so something maybe that staff could kind of consider moving into the next election cycle.
Yeah, I would like to kind of put it on the radar.
Sure, okay. Okay, so Alderman Dykstra.
through you, Madam Mayor, just in one comment to that, I mean, if we really want to change the slogan, that's fine, but I think a person that moves to our community and doesn't realize what they're getting into, even a slogan like that wouldn't help them. That's just my 2 cents.
Okay, so any other correspondence anybody wants to touch on? Okay, seeing none, we don't have any bylaws tonight. Does anybody have any notices of motion? Okay, no proclamations, other business. Alderman Conk. Oh, Alderman Dykstra, you have some as well? So you guys want to fight out who goes first? Ladies first? Okay, Alderman Conk.
Through you, Madam Mayor, I have had a discussion with a resident with regards to the time that our Committee of Adjustment meetings are held. They're at 4 o'clock, and this particular resident was quite irate because he called the township to inquire when the Committee of Adjustment meeting was held, and he was told, it's at 4 o'clock, and he said, well, I'm working, like I can't make it, and the response from our staff was, well, if it was important enough to you, you'd be here. So that's inappropriate, and not too happy about that. However, I'm wondering, and I'm sure I know the answer to this as to why we're holding it at 4 o'clock. It's for to help staff. Yes, not have overtime hours or whatever. Is there any way we could move this to evening meetings, or no?
I think it's a bigger discussion that we can maybe bring to SLT on Mondays, but I think it's been 4 o'clock, I think, so I don't know if anybody would really know what the reasoning was behind it, so I see heads shaking, so maybe that's something that we can take back to SLT, and maybe we can even look at what other municipalities do. Do you know when Port Colborne does? At night, okay. So is that something then maybe that we can discuss then and see, and maybe even look if we've had other complaints about that?
It seems kind of a weird time of the day to have a meeting when people do work. So if you have something coming up in front of Committee of Adjustment, you have to leave work in order to get here or whatever. So I'm thinking evening meetings probably would be a better fit for the community.
Meredith's saying we have had other people
Okay.
note that, so doesn't work in their schedule. So Meredith, do you want a motion then for this, or are you good with us just bringing it up at the next Monday meeting? Okay, so we'll do that. Okay, that's all? Okay. Alderman Dykstra.
Through you, Madam Mayor, something that I overlooked at the last meeting, as fire liaison, coming out of our FAT-C committee, with the fire chief and members of the fire department, I had said that I would ask, and I forgot at the last council meeting, they were inquiring about whether we could get in our community signs put up. We're starting to see them around the Niagara region, the firefighter signs with the green light warning, volunteer firemen. So I was wondering if, I don't know that the chief wanted to add to it at all, that we had discussed about this, but I was wondering if we could have Richard Nan maybe look into getting some of those signs put up, or what the cost would be, and I don't know whether we would approach some regional roads too, so I'm just wondering if we could get the ball rolling on that.
Through your worship to Alderman Dykstra, I'd be glad to look into costing and pricing and come back to council with a report. The only thing I would sort of ask is, because I will have to put applications in with the region as well as the MTO if you wanted them on the MTO highways. I would just ask if you can give me some specific locations or some ideas of the locations you wanted them in. Because I would have to, part of the application process is I have to map out exactly where you want the signs.
Yeah, and we actually have a meeting next Wednesday night, so that'll be one of the agenda items. Maybe Lee could add that to our agenda next week, and we could identify some sites, and we could get that information to you. Thank you.
I was just looking to see if I needed a motion, or if you needed a motion to do that, but Meredith's saying we'll let you get the information, and then it'll likely be at the next council, and then if we need a motion to get that report.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. No other business? Alderman Gilmore has other business.
Just quickly, Madam Mayor, through you to Adam, I just wondered what the status of the building report that I referred last meeting, where that discussion is at.
Through you, Madam Mayor, to Alderman Gilmore, we are still kind of working through it. Randy's been backlogged in terms of building permits, and we're trying to meet the mandatory deadlines to go through those applications, but it's definitely on our radar. It's a bit more complicated because it's not just his time that goes into those rates, so we need to go back, since neither one of us was involved in determining the rates and kind of breaking out how they got there to be able to bring something back to you. So it's on our radar, it's just taking a bit of time.
Okay, any other business? Seeing none, then we are going to, I'll need a motion to go into closed session. So Madam Clerk, you're going to read that information.
That council now move into closed session to discuss item under section 239-2 subsection C of the Municipal Act 2001, acquisition or disposition of land, potential acquisition of land, 2 items. Item under section 239-2 subsection B and D of the Municipal Act 2001, personal matters about an identifiable individual, labor relations or employee negotiations, personnel matter, 1 item, and minutes from the closed meeting of council held August 22nd, 2017.
So I need a mover and a seconder. Moved by Alderman Dykstra, seconded by Alderman Gilmore. All those in favor, that is carried, and the gallery's more than welcome to wait. I don't think we're going to be very long, and we will be back.